Hey guys, tonight we crack open one of the strangest books that nearly got lost forever, the Book of Giants. Imagine a manuscript so fragile it had to hide in desert caves for 2,000 years, and still it tells you about creatures so big they could use you as a toothpick. Yeah, you probably won't survive this bedtime story, but don't worry, you only need to listen. So, before you settle in, hit like and subscribe if you're really enjoying the journey. And while you're here, drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Turn the lights low, let the steady hum of the fan mark the silence, and brace yourself as we plunge into tonight's tale. You trace the brittle parchment in your imagination, the way those ancient scribes must have. The Book of Giants is not a neat novel, it's a shattered puzzle. It survived only in scraps, fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and later echoes in Manichean texts. You hear the crunch of sand under your feet, as if you're climbing into one of those Judean caves, brushing away bat guano and dust, only to find slivers of an apocalyptic drama. The tale is about the children of the Watchers, the fallen angels who loved too much what they shouldn't. Their offspring grew taller, hungrier, and more violent than any myth before or since. The fragments talk in broken lines, like overheard gossip. A giant wakes from a nightmare, sweating rivers, dreaming of the sky collapsing. Another giant scribbles it down, trying to interpret his own doom like a teenager reading his horoscope. It's eerie how personal these scraps feel. Scholars sometimes joke that the giants basically had an ancient group chat, all of them terrified that God was about to unplug the Wi-Fi of creation. And maybe that's not far off. The text shows them frightened, frantic, and suddenly self-aware. Now here's a mainstream historical fact you'll want to tuck under your pillow. The Book of Giants was found alongside other texts in Qumran, part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. That discovery in the late 1940s changed how we understood Jewish thought in the centuries before Jesus. It showed us a world bubbling with apocalyptic imagination, where angels and demons weren't just wallpaper for children's bedtime. They were real, terrifying forces of history. Historians still argue whether this book was widely read or more like a cult favorite, a spooky side piece to the Book of Enoch. And here's the quirky tidbit. One fragment actually names giants with words that sound almost like fantasy characters you'd invent in a video game. Gilgamesh is even mentioned. Yeah, that Gilgamesh, the hero king of Mesopotamia. Suddenly, the myth worlds overlap, like Marvel and DC crossing over. It's one of those moments that makes you wonder whether ancient people swapped stories the way we swap memes. Did a shepherd in Babylon gossip about giants with a sailor from Canaan? No one can prove it, but the names scattered through the text tease you into imagining. You keep walking deeper into the cave in your mind, the parchment glowing faintly in your hands. The giants complain. They blame their fathers, the fallen angels. They whine that the flood is coming, that their time is almost up. It's almost funny. These colossal beings, able to crush armies, suddenly turn into panicked toddlers begging for a bedtime story. But woven in their panic is something haunting. They dream of trees being cut down, of the earth splitting open. These aren't just random nightmares. They sound like coded warnings of environmental collapse, of human society buckling under their weight. You lean closer. The text says some of the giants actually asked Enoch, the great scribe, to intercede for them. Imagine that. Creatures who could probably juggle elephants pleading for someone to write them a divine petition. It's almost bureaucratic. Hey, we destroyed half the Earth, but could you send an email to God on our behalf? You'd laugh if it weren't so tragic. Their story is basically humanity's first cautionary tale about overreach. The children of angels and mortals thought they could live without limits. Spoiler, it didn't end well. Still, the fragments leave gaps, so many gaps. You're never sure if you're missing a sentence, a page, or an entire volume. That's part of the allure. It feels like listening to a mixtape where half the songs cut off mid-chorus, leaving you desperate to know how they ended. And yet, in those gaps, your imagination runs wild. The giants' voices echo like they're whispering through time. Remember us, or at least our mistakes. What keeps you awake here is how modern the tension feels. Think of our own world. Technologies we barely understand. Powers too big to control. Nightmares of collapse hidden in scientific reports. The Book of Giants almost feels like a prophecy of us. Giants aren't stomping around, but corporations, algorithms, even the size of our impact on the planet. They're giant enough. The book becomes a mirror, cracked but strangely clear. As the cave air grows colder, you notice something strange. Each scrap is written not to entertain, but to warn. The giants are cautionary figures, larger-than-life metaphors for what happens when limits are ignored. It's bedtime, sure, but it's also a lecture in whispers. Don't be too big for the world, or the world will shrink away from you. The night deepens, your eyelids heavy, but you still hear those trembling giant voices, like low thunder far away. They know the flood is coming. They know their father's rebellion doomed them. They know the Book of Giants will one day be a bedtime story told in hushed tones, with a fan humming in the background. And you're holding the fragments, listening to a story that almost didn't survive, watching giants crumble back into dust. You step out of the cave, carrying those fragile fragments, and the word that lingers like thunder in your ears is giants. Not just tall folks. No. These beings are so massive that mountains look like stools to them. You imagine their shadows stretching across valleys, their footfalls shaking rivers into froth. The ancient texts don't whisper about them politely. They scream in terror. These creatures ate, fought, and rampaged until human life itself was in danger of being erased. The Book of Giants paints them as children born from an impossible union, angels who traded in heaven's glow for earth's temptations and the women who caught their eyes. From that union, the Nephilim rose taller than your imagination, hungry beyond reason. One text even hints they devoured not only livestock, but humans. Though relax, this bedtime story won't go full horror flick on you. Still, picture it. You plant your little garden patch, proud of your onions, and a 10-story neighbor just plucks your whole field for a salad topping. Yeah, sharing wasn't their strong suit. Here's a mainstream historical fact. Almost every ancient culture has stories of giant beings. The Greeks had the Titans, the Norse had the Jotun, the Celts spoke of Fomorians. Even in Native American lore, bones of giant humans were said to be uncovered, though many of those discoveries turned out to be mastodon remains or, occasionally, 19th century hoaxes. Historians still argue whether these parallel myths came from shared human memory, exaggerated storytelling, or scattered encounters with oversized skeletons of animals mistaken for human. The quirky tidbit? In medieval times, travelers swore they saw giants on remote islands. One tale tells of sailors landing somewhere in the Atlantic, where the men were 12 feet tall and used tree trunks for canes. It's likely just tall locals plus generous imaginations, like Instagram filters centuries before Instagram existed. But the stories stuck, feeding into the sense that giants weren't just legend. They were maybe, just maybe, waiting beyond the horizon. Back in the world of the Book of Giants, you see them not as legends, but living nightmares. They fought among themselves, sometimes so fiercely that whole valleys became their arenas. Imagine WWE but with mountains as folding chairs. Their violence wasn't casual. It was insatiable. Every skirmish was a way to burn off the rage of being too large for a small planet. You can almost hear the clash of bone and boulder, feel the tremors under your bare feet as they topple each other like collapsing towers. The texts hint that giants also dreamed. Strange, prophetic dreams where skies fell, waters rose, and forests burned. They feared their own futures. That's a detail that makes you pause. If they were just dumb brutes, you could laugh them off. But instead, they're shown worrying, sweating through visions. You picture a giant waking up in the middle of the night, whispering his nightmare to another, then both of them sitting in silence, the horizon trembling with storm clouds. There's something deeply human about that. You think of Gilgamesh again. The text name-drops him like a celebrity cameo. His epic from Mesopotamia predates much of biblical writing, and it tells of a giant-like hero searching for immortality. Scholars still argue whether these overlapping names mean direct borrowing or just that giants were common enough in storytelling that every culture had their star. Either way, the cross-pollination of myth feels like humanity trying to make sense of the same big fear. What happens when beings too powerful walk among us? The giants weren't just tall, they were tragic. Their very existence was a mistake, an error in the cosmic code. Born of rebellion, they were destined for destruction. It's like playing a video game on cheat mode. You feel unstoppable, but sooner or later the system crashes. These giants carried that glitch in their very bones. And you, walking in their story, feel the inevitability. They can stomp and roar all they want, but the flood is already rising in the background. You glance around the imagined landscape. Herds scatter when giants pass. Cities build walls taller and thicker, but the walls crumble like sandcastles at high tide. Humanity survives only at the edges, hiding, whispering, praying. What's eerie is how familiar it feels. Replace giants with empires, corporations, or even technology, and you get the same picture. Beings too large for the common good, draining resources faster than the world can renew. It's the same bedtime warning, just told with different monsters. And in the quiet, when the dust of their brawl settles, you hear another sound: tears. The fragments tell of giants who mourn, who realize they've gone too far. Their hunger and violence aren't signs of strength, but of emptiness, of longing for something they can't name. They beg Enoch to plead for them. Imagine the irony. Skyscraper-sized beings kneeling like children, asking for forgiveness. You almost want to pat them on the shoulder, though you'd need a very tall ladder. The giants loom in your mind now, not just villains, but lessons. They show you the danger of unchecked growth, of desire without discipline, of power without purpose. And maybe in the hush of the night, they're less about the past and more about you. What hungers you let loose? What parts of yourself grow too big for the fragile world you live in? You lie back, eyes half closed, the earth still trembling under phantom footfalls. Giants once walked the land, and whether or not you believe in their literal size, their shadow still falls across your imagination. The Book of Giants makes sure of that. You step back toward those caves in Qumran, where the desert wind whistles like a broken flute, and you remember the story of the giants only survived because of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Without those caves, without jars tucked away like secret time capsules, you'd never be hearing this tale tonight. Picture yourself squeezing into a hollow space, rocks scraping your arms, your torchlight flickering on bundles of papyrus and parchment. Some are whole, but many are shredded like confetti after a parade. And somewhere among them lies the Book of Giants, buried under centuries of silence. The Dead Sea Scrolls were first uncovered in the late 1940s, when a Bedouin shepherd tossed a stone into a cave and heard the crack of pottery. It's one of history's great oops, I just found something world-changing moments. Inside those jars were texts older than any Bible we had at the time, dating back to around 200 BCE to 100 CE. That's the mainstream historical fact. These scrolls gave scholars an unparalleled look into Jewish thought before and during the time of Jesus, showing how vibrant and diverse their theology really was. Now here's your quirky tidbit. Some of those scrolls weren't just sacred texts, but also community rulebooks. Imagine your HOA guidelines written in ancient Hebrew, tucked next to apocalyptic visions. No working on the Sabbath, and also watch out for the angels who are plotting the downfall of humanity. The combination is oddly domestic and cosmic at once. Historians still argue whether the community at Qumran were Essenes, some other sect, or just an unusually bookish group hiding their library before the Romans stormed through. As you brush off the dust in your imagination, you notice the Book of Giants isn't like the Book of Isaiah or Psalms. It's fragmentary, with gaps like missing teeth. Sometimes you get just a phrase, "The giants dreamed," or "the trees were cut down." It's like trying to reconstruct a whole movie from a few seconds of corrupted film. But what you do glimpse is stunning. The giants argue, fear, and try to interpret omens. They wake from nightmares and consult each other like nervous roommates after a scary Netflix binge. One fragment speaks of a dream where a tablet was submerged in water until nothing remained. Another describes trees being toppled until only one was left standing. The symbolism is heavy, pointing toward the flood to come and maybe a single righteous figure, Noah, surviving. You feel the chill as you realize even the giants knew they were doomed. Their dreams were cosmic spoilers, and they couldn't change the script. Now picture this. You're the scribe tasked with copying the Book of Giants. Your reed pen scratches across parchment by oil lamp light, your hand cramping, your mind filled with images of colossal beings tearing the earth apart. Do you tremble as you write? Or do you smirk, thinking, well, at least this will make great bedtime gossip 2,000 years from now? The fragments don't tell you, but the thought lingers. The scrolls weren't stored carefully by accident. Whoever hid them must have known how dangerous or precious these texts were. And yet, for centuries, the Book of Giants vanished. It wasn't in the Bible. It wasn't in synagogue readings. It became a ghost book, waiting for the modern world to stumble into it. When scholars pieced the fragments together, it was like reassembling a shattered mirror, distorted, incomplete, but showing a reflection of beliefs we never knew existed. One debate still rages. Was the Book of Giants popular, or was it fringe fan fiction for apocalyptic junkies? Some historians argue it was widely read, influencing even Christian thought. Others think it was niche, cherished by a small sect. The evidence doesn't decide either way, which is half the fun. It's like trying to guess whether a cult indie film was secretly watched by millions or just 10 guys in a basement. The Dead Sea Scrolls give you something else, too: context. The Book of Giants sits alongside other wild texts, like the War Scroll, which imagines a cosmic battle of light versus darkness, or the Thanksgiving hymns, where writers pour out poetic gratitude as if Spotify playlists didn't exist yet. The Qumran library wasn't just scripture, it was imagination on fire, wrestling with evil, hope, and the end of days. And here you are, thousands of years later, reading fragments that nearly crumbled into nothing. That's the magic of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're a bridge. They connect modern readers to voices long gone. Voices of giants, angels, and frightened humans scribbling their fears into the desert night. You close your eyes, and you can almost hear that shepherd boy's gasp in 1947 when the first jar cracked open. A simple accident revealed a hidden library that reshaped our understanding of history, religion, and myth. Among all those texts, the Book of Giants lurked like a forgotten giant itself, stretching out its hand from the dust to remind you that stories, even broken ones, refuse to die. The desert wind fades, the cave grows still, and the parchment in your mind glows faintly, its words whispering through time. Giants once dreamed, and their dreams still haunt the night. You lift your gaze from those desert caves, and suddenly the trail of the Book of Giants leaps centuries forward, carried into another world view, the Manichean faith. Picture it: Persia, Central Asia, caravans rolling across deserts with bells jingling, scrolls tucked in saddlebags, whispers of cosmic struggle traded in market stalls. The story of the giants didn't just stay in Judean caves. It traveled, transformed, and became part of a global drama between light and darkness. Manichaeism was founded in the 3rd century CE by a prophet named Mani, who stitched together threads from Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism into a new religious tapestry. His vision? The entire universe was a battlefield where light and darkness were locked in eternal conflict. And guess what? The giants from those old scrolls made a cameo in this grand cosmic war. In Mani's retelling, they weren't just oversized brutes. They were part of the army of darkness, spawned by rebellious angels and destined to be crushed when light triumphed. Here's a mainstream historical fact. At its height, Manichaeism spread from the Roman Empire all the way to China. That's farther than most people's vacation plans, even today. For a few centuries, it was a serious global religion, competing with Christianity and Zoroastrianism. Historians still argue whether it should be considered the first true world religion, since it spanned cultures and languages like few faiths before it. Now for the quirky tidbit. In some regions, Manichean scribes illustrated their books with colorful paintings of cosmic beings, including giants. Imagine Sunday school handouts, but with neon ink and brushstrokes so vivid you'd swear the figures could walk off the page. Some of those manuscripts have been discovered in Central Asia, where fragments of the Book of Giants survive in a different language, Middle Persian. It's like the ancient version of a remake, translated and remixed for a new audience. You imagine a Manichean monk bent over parchment, retelling the old Jewish myth in his own idiom. In his version, the giants weren't just a local disaster. They symbolized cosmic corruption, the flesh and blood result of darkness invading the world of light. Their defeat wasn't just about Noah's flood. It was about restoring balance to the entire cosmos. Suddenly, the giants feel less like oversized bullies and more like avatars of a universal problem. Too much chaos, too little order. And here's where your modern brain kicks in. You realize that each retelling makes the giants bigger, scarier, and stranger. In Qumran, they're nightmares in caves. In Manichean texts, they're full-blown cosmic villains. It's like watching a franchise grow with sequels. The budget gets bigger, the special effects more dramatic, and the villains more colorful. You half expect a Marvel-style crossover poster, the Giants' Endgame. But underneath the flair, the same anxiety pulses. Humanity has always feared being overrun, consumed, drowned out by forces too massive to resist. Whether you call them giants, demons, or corporate monopolies, the fear sticks, and every culture redresses that fear in its own costume. You picture a Manichean preacher addressing a crowd along the Silk Road. He speaks of giants who once walked the earth, born of angelic lust and human weakness. He warns that they are not gone, that the forces they represent still press against the walls of the world. Merchants nod, warriors shift uneasily, children clutch their parents. The story is alive again, shaped for their ears, woven into their struggle between light and darkness. What's fascinating is how flexible the myth proved. A Jewish apocalyptic text morphs into a Zoroastrian-style cosmic battle. Later, echoes of these giants show up in Islamic traditions too. Myths are like seeds scattered by the wind. They sprout in unexpected soils, sometimes growing taller in faraway lands than in the place they first fell. And yet, despite all these retellings, fragments of the original heartbeat remain. The giants are still tragic, still doomed, still too large for the fragile earth. Their presence in Manichean lore reminds you that myths never die. They reincarnate, slipping into new tongues and robes. Even when their original scrolls crumble, they hitch rides on caravans, hidden in bundles of silk and spices. The desert night cools around you, and you imagine the stars above. So many, so endless. To the Manicheans, those stars weren't just pretty. They were sparks of light trapped in the material world, waiting to be freed. And maybe in their minds, the giants' downfall was part of that liberation, crushing the chaos so the stars could shine again. You breathe slowly, the hum of the fan in your room echoing like distant desert wind, and you realize every culture retells the story of being nearly destroyed. But the Book of Giants is unique. It refuses to vanish. It leaps from Qumran caves into Persian scriptures, from forgotten libraries into your headphones tonight. The giants may have drowned, but their story refuses to sink. You find yourself standing on a ridge between earth and sky, and one figure waits there, robe brushing the dust, eyes lifted toward the horizon. His name is Enoch, and if the giants had any hope left, they pinned it on him. The texts call him a scribe, a walker with God, a man who didn't so much die as vanish into the heavens. Tonight you follow him, pen scratching across cosmic parchment, as he moves between mortal desperation and divine judgment. Enoch is an odd character in ancient literature. In Genesis, he gets a mere 2 lines. He walked with God, and then he was no more. That's it. Blink and you miss him. But in the Book of Giants and other apocalyptic works, he explodes into a central role, like a side character suddenly spun off into his own franchise. Mainstream historical fact. By the Second Temple period, Enoch had become a superhero of sorts in Jewish thought, the man who knew heavenly secrets and could negotiate between realms. Historians still argue whether this Enoch fever was a fringe obsession or a widespread phenomenon, but the texts we've found show he was a big deal. In the fragments of the Book of Giants, the towering children of the Watchers send messengers to Enoch. Imagine the scene. Colossal beings, muscles like mountains, suddenly nervous, wringing their oversized hands as they choose who among them will approach this tiny human. They're too afraid to face heaven directly, so they hope a mortal scribe can file an appeal. It's like a group of CEOs who just crashed the economy, asking an intern to write a polite email to the government for bailouts. You almost feel sorry for them. Almost. Enoch listens, pen in hand, dreams still glowing behind his eyelids. One fragment shows the giants begging him to intercede, to ask the Most High for mercy, or at least a delay in judgment. But you sense the futility. The story has momentum, like a boulder rolling downhill. The giants can plead, but the flood is already in the script. The quirky tidbit here? Later Jewish mystics claimed Enoch didn't just walk with God. He became the angel Metatron, the heavenly scribe. Imagine a promotion so wild it makes LinkedIn jealous. Mortal scribe. Archangel with 72 wings. It shows how malleable Enoch's legend was, swelling larger in each retelling, much like the giants he once scolded. As you follow him in this dreamlike landscape, Enoch records visions. He sees thrones, angels bound in pits, stars that move like soldiers across the sky. He moves like a diplomat between divine and monstrous courts. You almost hear his sigh as he returns to the giants with bad news. Their petitions won't be accepted. Mercy won't be extended. The decree is sealed. Their days are numbered. The giants moan, some in rage, some in despair. You picture them stomping the ground, their cries echoing like thunderclaps. But Enoch stays calm, pen steady, reminding them that choices have consequences. His very presence is like a soft voice in a crowded room, measured, firm, almost ASMR in tone. You think of other mediators in history, Moses, Muhammad, even secular figures like Gandhi, standing between the powerful and the powerless, trying to translate justice into human terms. Enoch feels like their prototype, a man caught in the middle, burdened with impossible responsibility. Historians still argue whether his legend grew because people longed for a heavenly go-between, someone to soften divine wrath with human words. You lean closer, and the scene grows intimate. One fragment has the giants dreaming of destruction, then waking in panic to consult Enoch. He explains that the dreams are warnings, not chances. Judgment isn't just coming. It's already written in the fabric of the cosmos. Their fate is sealed not by whim, but by law, like gravity pulling them toward the flood. There's something hauntingly modern here. You know that feeling when experts warn about climate change or collapsing systems, and leaders nod politely but keep building their empires anyway? The giants are that on a mythical scale. They hear the verdict, they even believe it, but they can't change who they are. Their hunger, their violence, their very DNA rebels against repentance. Still, Enoch's role lingers with you. He's the one who writes it all down, who refuses to let even doomed beings vanish without record. He reminds you of the scribes at Qumran, or the Manichean monks centuries later. Writers can't stop destruction, but they can bear witness. And maybe that's why you're listening tonight, because someone bothered to keep the story alive. As you watch Enoch fade into the horizon, you realize he isn't just a prophet in the story. He's also the reason you know the story at all. His pen stitched fragments into memory, turning catastrophe into a warning. His footsteps vanish into the sky, but his words stay on the page, glowing softly in the dark like embers refusing to die out. You exhale, your eyelids heavy, and the image of Enoch dissolves into the night. The giants still tremble, the flood still looms, and somewhere between heaven and earth, the scribe keeps writing. The air grows heavy, and the ground itself feels uneasy under your feet. The giants have filled the world with noise, their stomping, their endless brawls, their appetites so large they chew through forests and drain rivers. You hear the earth groan as if it has indigestion from hosting these children of chaos. This is the moment where the Book of Enoch widens the lens. What began as a local scandal with fallen angels and oversized kids becomes a cosmic crisis written across the sky. The Book of Enoch, or more accurately, Mirth and Enoch, since there are multiple Enochs floating in the apocryphal library, was one of the most influential works of Jewish apocalyptic literature. Mainstream historical fact, it was widely read in the centuries before Christianity, quoted in the New Testament's letter of Jude, and even found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yet it never made it into the official Jewish or Christian canons, except in the Ethiopian Church, which still treats it as scripture. Historians still argue whether this exclusion was politics, theology, or simply the bad press that comes from having too many giants on your resume. You flip through its visions in your mind. Enoch doesn't just warn giants. He catalogs heavens, measures the motions of stars, explains how the calendar works. He becomes the astronomer of apocalypse. The stars, he says, aren't just dots in the sky. They're living beings, some of whom have rebelled just like the Watchers. That little detail sticks with you. Even the cosmos itself is a moral drama. Here's the quirky tidbit. In one section, Enoch describes the names of the fallen angels, complete with their specialties. One taught humans how to use makeup, another how to forge swords, another how to read the stars for divination. It's like an ancient syllabus of forbidden knowledge. You can almost imagine a celestial HR file, Azazel, terminated for unauthorized disclosure of metallurgy. The giants come alive again in these passages, destroying not just fields and villages but balance itself. The Book of Enoch describes them as devouring everything until humans cry out, their voices piercing heaven. The image is brutal but familiar. Overconsumption leading to collapse, too much weight pressing down on a fragile system. You can almost see the rivers clogging, herds dwindling, skies turning strange, environmental warnings dressed in apocalyptic robes. As you wander this vision, the flood grows closer, not just as water, but as inevitability. Enoch explains that judgment isn't a punishment pulled out of a hat. It's the natural end of imbalance. Too much chaos tips the scale, and the world has to reset. Like a computer frozen by too many apps, the universe presses restart. You imagine the giants sensing it. They dream of mountains crumbling, of the earth swallowing them. Their massive lungs gasp, but they can't escape. Even their fathers, the Watchers, are bound in chains, crying from their pits. The text says their pleas rise up, but heaven answers with silence. That silence is louder than thunder. And yet, in between doom, Enoch slips in teachings about astronomy, calendars, and morality. Why? Maybe because the people who read it weren't just interested in giants. They wanted order, structure, something steady against the chaos. If you know when the sun will rise, when the months will turn, maybe you can believe the world still has meaning, even as it cracks at the edges. It hits you how modern that feels. When things fall apart, What do? We check schedules, we cling to science, we make lists. Enoch was doing that thousands of years ago, writing calendars while warning about cosmic floods. You smile a little at the thought. Even in apocalypse, someone has to be the planner. Historians still debate whether the Book of Enoch influenced later Christian ideas of fallen angels, demons, and even Satan himself. Its imagery of cosmic rebellion and judgment is everywhere in later literature. Dante's Inferno, Milton's Paradise Lost, all of them carry faint echoes of Enoch's visions. And yet, in its time, it was banned, pushed to the margins. Maybe the giants were too scandalous, or maybe the warnings cut too close. You step into one of Enoch's visions, the sky splitting open, stars tumbling like soldiers in retreat, seas foaming up their banks. You feel tiny, a speck watching the world buckle. The giants are still there, larger than you can imagine, but suddenly they seem less terrifying. Their size can't save them. Their fists can't beat back the tide. They're just as doomed as you would be if the ground opened. But in the middle of this collapse, Enoch keeps writing. He's relentless, as if he believes words themselves can preserve balance, even if the world can't. His book becomes a bridge for later generations, a map of fear and hope. You hear his pen scratching, steady as a heartbeat, and you realize the Book of Enoch isn't just apocalypse, it's survival through storytelling. The night hums around you, the fan whispering like desert wind, and you feel it. Giants can topple, worlds can flood, but words endure. The story keeps flowing, and now your mind drifts beyond dusty caves and Hebrew prophets. You start hearing the same echoes in places far from Judea. You realize something strange. These giants don't just belong to one text or one people. They seem to pop up everywhere, wearing new names, striding through new myths, and terrifying new generations. You begin to suspect that the Book of Giants might not just be a story. It might be one chapter in humanity's long obsession with beings too big for the world. Think about the Greeks. They had their titans, colossal beings who ruled before the Olympians. Kronos devours his children. The gods overthrow them in a cosmic family feud, and you can practically hear the crunch of bones beneath marble temples. Mainstream historical fact. The Titanomachy, the war between Titans and Olympians, was a central myth of Hesiod's theogony, written around the 8th century BCE. It shaped how the Greeks saw divine order. Chaos must be overthrown for civilization to stand. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Giants always symbolize that tipping point where chaos overstays its welcome. Now glance north. The Norse had their Jotun, frost giants dwelling in Jotunheim. Some were monstrous, but others were wise, keepers of secrets even the gods desired. It was Ymir, a primordial giant, whose body became the world itself. Flesh for earth, blood for oceans, skull for sky. Historians still argue whether Jotun were always meant to be enemies, or whether they were ambiguous figures, part danger, part origin. Either way, their sheer size forces humans to imagine the world as born from something larger than life. Here's your quirky tidbit. In Irish mythology, the giant Fionn mac Cumhaill supposedly built the Giant's Causeway as a stepping stone path across the sea to Scotland. In reality, that hexagonal rock formation comes from volcanic activity. But try telling that to villagers 2,000 years ago. To them, only a giant's boot could have left such marks. You can almost imagine Fionn sighing, "Yep, I built that," while secretly wincing from blisters. The pattern keeps going. Across the world, giants stand guard at the edge of human imagination. In Native American stories, thunder beings clash with stone giants, shaking the skies. In Mesopotamian myth, monstrous figures like Humbaba loom as guardians of forbidden forests. Even in Polynesian lore, demigods like Maui fight against sky beings too large to fit inside the story. Wherever you look, humanity imagines too big to handle forces in giant form. You trudge through these myths and start noticing the shared themes. Giants as eaters of humans, destroyers of crops, challengers of gods, or awkwardly tragic parents of civilizations. Scholars today debate whether this is coincidence, cultures stumbling on the same archetypes, or a memory passed down, fractured through migrations. Maybe these stories are like fossils of a forgotten fear, deep in the human subconscious. And here's the scholarly open debate. Were these giant myths inspired by actual encounters with fossilized bones? Ancient people sometimes unearthed mammoth skulls or massive femurs and thought, clearly, a giant once roamed here. Without modern paleontology, a fossilized thigh bone looked like undeniable proof of titans. Historians still argue whether such discoveries fed the myths, or whether the myths existed first and the bones were just convenient evidence. As you piece these threads together, you realize mythology is doing what Enoch's book did, helping people explain chaos. Giants are metaphors for everything overwhelming. Floods, earthquakes, invading armies, hunger too large to satisfy. When humans feel small, they give fear a body, usually 10 times their size. But mythology also softens giants into storytellers. You chuckle imagining a Norse skald whispering tales of frost giants while snow howls outside, or a Greek farmer muttering about titans while plowing rocky soil. Myths weren't just for priests. They were for everyone who needed to laugh, cry, or feel that their daily struggle connected to something cosmic. You pause, remembering that crocodile dung sunscreen from earlier. Ancient people always mixed the bizarre with the profound. Giants were the same. Half joke, half terror, all story. Even today, giant is shorthand for anything massive. Tech companies, sports players, hamburgers with too many layers. We still live with the metaphor, just with less divine judgment. Hopefully. As you settle deeper into the tale, the myths blur into one another. Titans roar, Jotun stomp, Nephilim groan, Fion strides across seas. You feel their shadows pressing against your eyelids, big enough to block out stars. Yet you also sense how fragile they are. For all their size, they're never permanent. Titans fall, Jotun are fated for Ragnarok, Nephilim drown. Giants always vanish, leaving humans to pick up the pieces. And maybe that's the quiet lesson. No matter how enormous a force seems, whether it's famine, empire, or storm, humans outlast it by telling stories. Words can be larger than giants. You feel the ground rumble again, not with the stomp of giants this time, but with the footsteps of those who made them. The Watchers. They were the spark, the original misstep that threw the whole cosmic drama into motion. Picture them. Angels assigned to watch over humanity, guardians who were supposed to help, not interfere. Instead, they leaned in too close, broke the rulebook, and tumbled into desire. The Book of Enoch names them, and you can almost imagine them as a rogue band of teachers gone wild. Azazel, the one who showed humans how to forge weapons. Semjaza, the ringleader who convinced others to take the plunge. Shemhazai, who hesitated but still fell. Each one with a specialty, like professors teaching forbidden electives. Metallurgy, cosmetics, astrology, sorcery. And you're sitting there thinking, well, that escalated quickly. Mainstream historical fact. Angelology, the study of angels and their hierarchy, was a major theme in Second Temple Judaism. Different Jewish groups speculated about ranks of angels, their powers, and their roles. But the Watchers stood out because they blurred the boundary between heaven and earth. Historians still argue whether the Watcher myth was born as a cautionary tale against intermarriage with foreign nations, or whether it was always meant as a cosmic rebellion story. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some later traditions claimed that after Azazel taught women how to use makeup, humanity became so obsessed with eyeliner and blush that vanity itself counted as part of the corruption. Imagine the angels watching humans invent smoky eye looks and muttering, "Okay, maybe we went too far." But the real weight is in the consequences. The Watchers descend, take human wives, and father the Nephilim, the giants you've already seen stomping their way across the story. They cross a line not just of obedience, but of ontology, fusing heaven and earth in a way the cosmos wasn't built to handle. You sense how wrong it feels, like plugging the wrong charger into a delicate device. Sparks fly, systems short-circuit, and soon the whole world smolders. You tread carefully through this vision, because the punishment of the Watchers is as haunting as the giants' hunger. Bound in chains, thrown into pits of darkness, they cry out for forgiveness through Enoch. They beg him to plead with God on their behalf. But heaven replies, too late. Judgment is sealed, no parole. The silence after their prayers must have been unbearable, heavier than any chain. And yet, here's the scholarly debate that lingers. Were the Watchers symbols of real historical anxieties? Some say they represent priests gone corrupt, abusing power by mixing the sacred with the profane. Others argue they're myths to explain why evil knowledge, like war and sorcery, entered human history. Historians still argue whether the Watchers were ever meant to be taken literally or always stood as metaphors for bad leadership and forbidden curiosity. The Watchers' tragedy feels strangely modern, doesn't it? Beings with authority misuse their power, pass forbidden knowledge, and suddenly the world spirals. It's the same pattern you see in scandals today. Trust broken, consequences sprawling, everyone asking, how could they let this happen? You can almost hear a sarcastic whisper, because someone couldn't keep their halo on straight. And here's another detail. The word Watcher itself suggests vigilance, guardianship, responsibility. They weren't random angels. They were chosen to keep an eye on humanity. Their failure wasn't passive, it was betrayal of their very role. That's what makes their fall sting so much. But step back, and you notice how often myths punish curiosity. Prometheus steals fire, Pandora opens the jar, the serpent whispers about forbidden fruit. The Watchers fit the same mold. Knowledge is always tempting, always dangerous, and always punished. Yet at the same time, humanity keeps it. Once Azazel shows blacksmithing, you can't uninvent the sword. Once Shemazai reveals astrology, the stars are forever suspicious. The punishment lands on the Watchers, but the legacy rests on humans. You catch yourself wondering, what if the Watchers hadn't fallen? Would humanity still have discovered metallurgy, makeup, astrology? Probably. Humans are pretty good at poking things until they spark. But the myth says otherwise. Knowledge was a gift with a curse wrapped inside. The night deepens, and in the hum of your fan, you hear the echo of chains dragging, Watchers groaning from their prisons. It's a lonely sound, like echoes in a cave. you can't help but feel a little pity for them. They wanted more, and for that, they got less than nothing. Endless waiting in silence, watching humanity live with the knowledge they unleashed. And here's the irony that lingers. The Watchers are punished for teaching, yet their story itself has been teaching for millennia. Every retelling warns about crossing lines, about power misused, about knowledge that can't be untaught. They failed at guarding, but they succeeded at haunting. The tale finally narrows, and all threads converge on the beings who walked the earth too large for it. The Nephilim. You can almost hear the word roll around your mouth. Mysterious, heavy, half shadow, half echo. They are the children of the Watchers and the daughters of men, hybrids whose very existence bends the rules of creation. You picture them striding across valleys, eyes glinting like fire, laughter shaking the branches of trees, and everywhere they go, balance tipping. Mainstream historical fact. The Nephilim are only briefly mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, specifically in Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, before the flood. That single cryptic line has launched centuries of speculation. Were they giants? Fallen heroes? Mighty warriors? Historians still argue whether the word Nephilim comes from a root meaning fallen ones, or those who cause others to fall. Either way, their presence signals a world on the brink of collapse. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some medieval Jewish commentators claimed that Og, the king of Bashan, survived the flood by clinging to the outside of Noah's Ark. Picture it. A soggy giant hitching a ride like an oversized barnacle, waving politely as Noah peers nervously over the rail. It's half absurd, half chilling, because if true, it would mean that Nephilim blood trickled into later history, haunting Israel's battles with giant tribes like the Rephaim and Anakim. But the dominant tradition says otherwise. The Nephilim perished in the flood, washed away with their father's rebellion. Their appetite had consumed too much. Their violence had spilled too wide. And so, when the waters rose, their voices vanished. The Book of Giants, the Book of Enoch, the whispers of caves, all agree. The hybrids became a cautionary tale, proof of what happens when boundaries blur. You tread carefully across this fading memory. The Nephilim loom as symbols of excess, of strength without restraint, of knowledge without wisdom. In some traditions, they are pitied, children who never asked to be born into rebellion. In others, they are condemned as monsters who trampled humanity beneath their feet. And here lies the open debate. Were the Nephilim literal beings, historical figures whose size was exaggerated, or metaphors for oppressive rulers whose arrogance crushed the weak? Historians still argue, and perhaps that's the point. Ambiguity itself makes them endure. As you wander deeper, you notice how the Nephilim blur into other myths you've already walked through. They look like titans. They sound like Jotun. They echo Humbaba in his cedar forest. It's as if humanity kept rewriting the same nightmare, reshaping it to fit new landscapes. Giants never stay dead. They reincarnate in story. And yet, for all their terror, the Nephilim leave something behind. Warning. They remind you that mixing power with desire can fracture worlds. They remind you that size alone doesn't mean survival. When the flood comes, even the tallest drown. They remind you that knowledge is a fire you can't return once lit. Their shadows stretch into today, not in literal giant bones, but in every time humanity creates something too big to control, whether armies, industries, or technologies. You pause, exhale, and feel the hum of the fan like the breath of an old world winding down. The Nephilim fade from the text, but they never leave entirely. They linger in whispered theories, in conspiracy videos, in campfire tales where kids swear they saw a footprint too large to be human. Giants survive because fear survives. And now, as the story quiets, you find yourself softening too. The world of chains, of floods, of watchers and Nephilim begins to dissolve like mist at dawn. The tale has roared, but it doesn't end in thunder. It ends in a hush. The wind down begins. Your voice slows, words stretching longer, softer, like ripples fading across a lake. The Nephilim are gone now, just as the watchers are bound, just as the giants have sunk. The world rests lighter without them. You feel that rest settling in your body, like blankets pressed close. The stars above, once alive with rebellion, shine steady again. They don't blink, they don't fall, they just glow, calmly, patiently. You sense that the cosmos, for all its storms, has always tilted back toward balance. Floods recede, myths fade, and humanity moves forward, telling stories not just to fear the dark, but to remind itself that dawn always comes. And maybe as you close your eyes, you carry the lesson too. Giants can rise, chaos can thunder, but peace always has its turn. The watchers fell, the Nephilim vanished, yet here you are, breathing, safe, listening to words that outlast them. So let the weight of the story ease off your chest. Let the whispers of myth soften into silence. Let the hum of your fan be the only sound, steady and calm, as if the whole universe is breathing alongside you. The giants are gone, the night is yours, and the dream ahead is gentle. Good night.